very good evening to you from wherever you are watching us from. I hope that you had a fantastic day. Now, my name is Aguko. It's a pleasure being with you today. This is Power Talk. We are coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. We are also streaming live through our website, and that's at www.kbc.co.ke/Y254. Welcome to this evening show. And today we want to talk about matters concerning one young man. And my oh my, does he have a story. Now, put yourself in these particular shoes. Imagine being born into a world full of violence, a world full of conflict. And not just any kind of conflict, but also armed conflict. This is the story of Antonio Longangi. He is an author. He is a storyteller of a book here known as Amandla. This is the book that we shall be looking into. If you see the front of this particular book here, born of the first Congo War. How can someone born in a time like this grow up to be someone who is strong and is not affected by war? Are you aware that these things leave psychological effects on children? This is a story of how he survived the first Congo War. Ladies and gentlemen, Antonio Longangi. How are you, my brother?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Welcome to the show. I'm fine.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
It's been a long time since we planned this show.
Absolutely.
I know.
We're supposed to have this discussion.
Welcome.
Back.
Yeah.
And then I'm just realizing something. The show is called Power Talk.
Yes.
And Amandla means power in Ngoni language.
Amandla means power.
Yeah. So if we had to Africanize your show, it's gonna be Amandla.
Amandla.
Talk.
Amandla Talk.
Yeah, Amandla Talk. So
it's from
I'm taking over your show.
From which
Southern Africa, the Zulu, the Xhosa, and other nations in Southern Africa.
Okay.
They let's just call them Southern African Bantus. They all use the same concept of Amandla.
But you're Congolese?
To be power. Yes, I'm Congolese.
How did you end up having a South African name?
I would like to spoil that for you, but I would love you to read the book to know, because actually it's an interesting story, and even the idea of power. Because Amandla, first of all, come from the chants used during the anti-apartheid rallies, when the South African were actually away to Amandla, away to.
Yes, something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's actually what made it. In fact, initially the name of the book wasn't Amandla, and then when I just realized what actually the story was all about, is that it's power. It's about a person going through certain things. Yeah. You are a young child, you're going through certain things, but you come out on the other side, resilient, to come out on the other side, capable of and wanting to contribute to the betterment of humanity. It's actually interesting. So that's the idea of power, that's the idea of liberation, that's the idea of self-empowerment actually, was actually the reason why I chose the title and even to tell the story itself. And that's why I'm even happy to be here, because it's a youth TV, and we want the youth to stand up for what is right. And
what is right?
This part of
You're a strong man. You're a strong man. You're a strong man. I love the power. I love the Amandla in you, Antonio. I never knew Amandla means power.
Okay.
I never knew. But thanks for coming. And of course, I invite you from home, from wherever you're watching us from, to be part of this discussion. Listen to his story, and maybe it can inspire you. Or just maybe. I'm sure it will inspire you. Maybe you do not know how other people are doing. Let's get to see how others are doing, for you to know how best you can spearhead yourself into becoming a better version of who you are using his testimony. Antonio, let me start with, first of all, understanding this book here. What inspired you to write this book?
All right. First of all, I like telling stories and writing. I started writing since high school. I was writing poems in French and all that. And then even music as well. I was writing music and all that, which I still do. And then at some point, I remember I found the first manuscript, the first version of this book in French. It was written, scribbled on a piece of paper that I think I wrote in 2007. It was in French, bad French. And it feels like I always wanted to tell this story.
Bad French?
It was terrible French, like it was high school French. I read it, I was like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking?
So
was that is bad in
it was
French?
just something
Some
scribbled
scribble, that's the idea. But that's actually showed the will and the desire to actually tell the story.
All right.
Because even after the incident, my father had me tell the story over 100 times, because I will sit down, people who thought I was dead in the war, they will come to visit to actually make sure that I'm actually alive, and they will sit me and ask me to tell the story,
so
exactly what happened.
Your father would encourage you to
tell the story when I was a
story.
kid, yes. And he was recording it. He used to use a tape recorder to record it every time I was telling the story. And people love to listen to that. And I grew up, every time I wanted to justify something or to tell something interesting about myself, or just like, oh, what I've experienced. So sometimes when I want to be understood, it was the story I was telling. And then...
And even as continue, I know there's so many things that we are going to cover,
yes,
but quickly. I'm reading the back page of this, the back cover
yes,
of this book. You're saying it's a journey through the first Congo War.
Yeah.
And it's 1996 to 1997.
Yes.
That's a Congo War.
Yes.
But I thought there were other wars in Congo.
Because Congo is known for wars.
Well, enlighten me. For someone who doesn't understand this thing.
And that's exactly why it was important to write a book from a Congolese perspective, because even the image of Congo is always seen as conflictual. Like you have conflict in Congo from the beginning of the inception of the republic, from Congo to the end. But there are different wars. That actually is the first official war. The rest, there was struggle for independence. So you had a political struggle for independence with Lumumba, Kasavubu, and the rest. And then after that, you had other struggle for independence, which were now militarized. Like you had now people fighting militias being created here and there after the assassination of Lumumba. People wanted genuine independence because of neocolonialism, and then how external powers, especially America, Belgium, and other powers, they actually put Mobutu in power, and people did not want that because it was like they still held control of the country past the colonial time. It was still colonization, but now instead of having white people on top, you have now a black person who's your president, who's the king, who's doing everything else, but the orders are coming from outside. So there are different groups who believed in the dream of Lumumba, of genuine liberation, who started now fighting, and that's why you have Pierre Moulele, who was killed by Mobutu. And those are wars, they're viewed as movement for liberation, like liberation struggle. That's what they viewed. But now for the first Congo War, in 1996, 1997, that's the first one. And then you had the second one, which happened in 1998, from 1998 to 2003.
Wow.
And then after that, and it's important because the security apparatus of the Congo right now, like the landscape security, security-wise, was crafted or shaped by this event, the first Congo War and the second Congo War.
And you were there in both wars?
Yes.
You experienced them?
Yes, but for the second one, trauma made me ignored. I don't remember much of the second.
You don't remember much of the second?
No, because even where I was, we didn't run really, because when the second Congo War began, it was in August 1998. There were not really much fighting within the city, Goma, where I was born and where I was raised. So there were not much fighting within the city. It was just a few resistance and a couple of hours. And already the Rwandan-supported rebel group called RCD, they took over. It was easy. It was just easy to take Goma. It wasn't a fight. So,
but now this is the first Congo War.
Yeah, that's the first Congo War.
Here.
Yes.
And before we get to the story, just one small bit. Did going through the war have a long-term effect on you as a person? Just briefly. Don't get into the
yes or no.
but not a yes or no answer. But how did it affect you as growing up as a person and your view of what life was?
Absolutely. Even writing the book, the question came right there. The angle of the book, when I found the angle of the book came from a friend who asked me a question, how do you think experiencing that affected you now as a young adult? I was like, that's actually interesting. I never thought about that. So I started looking for how it affected me. Then I realized it's not just me. There are many other people who experience the same thing, who probably affected as much as I was, even worse. Because some of them, I didn't hold a gun in the story, but some people actually did that. They were asked to kill their families. They saw terrible things happening to the people they loved. I saw a bit of that, but not too much of it. So then I realized it's not just a story of one person. It's a story of many people,
so
but one
many
of them.
people.
Absolutely. And even right now, with everything that's happening right now, Bunagana being taken by the M23, it's all part of the same situation. There's a picture that was on Twitter recently when M23 started. There was a small kid. She was probably 4 years old with her siblings on the back. They're running away for their lives. I was like, this is interesting. Those are the Amandlas. Those are the people actually who, this story, they're experiencing the same story in the present, in the moment, in 2002, in 2022. So it was an interesting thing. So when it's come to the psychological ramification or impact of the experience, there's just so much, and that's why I call it Born of the First Congo War, because I believe that my personality was actually crafted, or the foundation of personality was founded by, yes, a specific moment to the war when the naivety, because the story is, yes, we'll talk about that probably, there's a specific moment where you see this childlike way of seeing the world just went away. You started now accepting the chaos for what it is. Trying to embrace the chaos.
It became part of you.
Absolutely. And then there are certain things, you are feeling things, but you can't articulate them. You don't have, you're still a kid, you don't know how to label them. So it becomes confusing. And then it changes how you view the world, how you view other people, and how you view even God.
How you view God himself.
Absolutely.
It changed.
It changed.
Would you believe, did you have a belief that God exists?
I was a Sunday school kid when I was growing up, and they used to tell us God is a loving person and all that, but also there was a side of guilt. That was, you know, when you're a kid, they tell you if you do something wrong, you are crucifying Jesus one time over. If you do two things wrong, you are crucifying him 3 times, and you might go to hell or be punished because of that. So there was a bit of that, but I chose to look at him as a person who made beauty. See, when you're a kid, you just want to discover things. You're curious about stuff. And then after seeing the chaos, after seeing certain things, you just start, okay, who's in control of things? Who's keeping things together?
Who's keeping things in order?
Yes, absolutely. And I was like,
who's
there's no
keeping
one.
people in check?
Absolutely. Because you feel like the guy with the gun is actually the one who controls everything.
Who controls?
Yeah, he's terrorizing everybody. Everybody's living, everybody's crying, and everybody's just scared to hell. And no one is actually, you don't expect relief to come from anywhere. So it just became like, okay, cool. So what is this? I need to find this guy. So I got more serious about searching God after that. To find him and asking questions like, what's going on?
I mean, where are you when all these things are happening?
It's like, why did you even make all this? Why did you create all this? Like, we didn't ask you.
Antonio.
Yes, sir.
The First Congo War. Tell us about the early stages of your childhood. Let's now get to know your story.
All right. I was born in the city of Goma in North Kivu. And I always say it's a beautiful city that lives in the middle of danger, because you have the northern side of the city that has the chain of volcanoes, like 7 volcanoes, with 2 of them that are still active. One of them is a threat to the city. And then the southern part of the city, you have the Lake Kivu, which also has natural gas. And if not exploited and not managed well, it could explode and kill everybody in the city. But it's still a beautiful city. It's a melting pot where you have people coming from different parts of the country, and they are meeting there to do business, to live together, people intermarry and all that type of thing. So it's just, it's a beautiful multi-ethnical, multicultural city. So I was growing up in that context. And people love telling stories. People, since you have people coming from different parts, so they will come together and tell stories. So I think that's where the storytelling came in. People will tell you a story about Bunagana, where they come from. They tell a story about Masisi, tell a story about Bukavu, about Uvira, and the rest of it. So it was just an interesting context we grew up in. So my parents, they came from South Kivu. We are from an ethnic group called Rega. We are hunters. And they came from South Kivu and saw in Goma. They met in Goma, fell in love, and then I was the first guy who came, and then my little brother. And
You're
then
the
after
firstborn?
some time, I'm the firstborn, yes.
Right.
I'm the firstborn. And then after some time, my little brother also came in. And after some time, my parents separated, and it was right after the war. So everything was happening all at once. And during that time when I was born, which actually was interesting to realize, because I was asking myself, the country Zaire, which was Congo at that time, was actually falling apart. There was this painting called Inakale, where you have a person stuck on a tree with a snake, a tree that's falling. And you can Google it. Actually, it's a beautiful painting. It was popular in the 80s in the Congo.
Somebody can Google that. Is there a particular name?
Inakale.
Inakale.
Yeah, Inakale.
Google Inakale. Get to read more about what that painting is all about.
So Inakale, the painting showed this man stuck on a tree with a snake inside. It's on the tree, like the snake is with him on the tree.
Yeah.
And then you have a lion on the land side, and then you have a lake with a crocodile in it. And the tree was the one who was chopping it. So, and they asked now the question, how can this man be saved? Yeah, because if he falls into the lake, the crocodile will eat him. If he goes back on land, the lion will eat him.
I've
if
seen
he
that
stayed,
painting, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
If he stayed on the tree, the snake will deal with him, and then the tree is falling, and he was the one actually cutting the tree before all that happened. And that's exactly what was the picture of Zaire at that time. There was no way out for the state itself. Like the man represented Mobutu, who was also the state. So economically speaking, things were going bad. Politically, things were going bad because you also had the Cold War ended. So you had Americans campaigning for this wave of democratization, opening the political space and all that, and liberal economy and blah, blah, blah. So you had all that, the pressure, the political pressure from outside, like slapping the states, and Mobutu wanted to stay in power, and also the Congolese did not know any other way. Like democracy, what did it mean? The guy was in power for 32 years, so the entire generation, the generations, like a couple of generations, that only knew him. Exactly, it was fading, but then again, it was leaving their legacy. Like they made a structure, they created a culture, even the political culture that it's even present in the country right now. The Congolese politics is still guided by the principle of the political culture established by Mobutu. So it was just during that time. And then now you had the Rwandan civil war that started in 1999 that led to the genocide in 1994. And then during the genocide, you had all these perpetrators of the genocide, and other people were scared moving to Zaire in my city again. So I was probably, 1994, I was 1 year old when they came in. It was a refugee influx and the humanitarian issues, while Rwanda had a new regime. So the people who ran to Zaire now, they wanted to go back, they wanted to regroup, gain their strength back, and then go back, finish the job in Rwanda, what they started already, the extermination of Tutsi people. So now, since the rebel had already taken the country, they felt like the people the perpetrators staying in Zaire was a threat and needed to deal with it. Mobutu, as I told you, he was the man in the tree, couldn't do anything about his own country. So him addressing the issue of a neighboring country was also not possible. Exactly. So they decided to take things in their own hands. So they recruited a couple of opposition leaders, Congolese opposition leader, including Mzee Laurent Désiré Kabila. They recruited them, and they created this alliance called Alliance de Forces Démocratiques pour la Libération du Zaïre, du Congo, AFDEL, and they invaded the country. And that's how the first Congo War found us. And at the same time, my parents were also, because it's important to look at, to understand actually childhood in conflict, it's important to look at the social and the political environment in which the person is actually being raised into. So my family wasn't stable at all. That's why I said they separated after the war. It wasn't stable. And now you have the country also wasn't stable at all. And then you have now this war beginning. So it's just like messy side plus messy side and just creating this huge chaos.
Now, how was it now during this time? You're still young.
Yes.
There is a lot of violence. There is a lot of armed conflict going on around you. How was it, growing up at
in the beginning?
Like
in the beginning, it did not mean much because I was still a kid. I don't know. I can't make sense of many things that was going on. It's just a kid. You wake up in the morning. All you want to do is to have your breakfast and then go outside to play with your friend. Come back. They will force you actually to come back and take a shower, and then you go back again. You come have lunch.
Playing outside was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Like everything was okay. Life was okay. Life was relaxed, was chilled until the war began. and it's began in 1996. So between 1994 to 1996, there were problems, but it was mostly humanitarian issues that were happening.
But yeah, I'm talking about now during the war.
During the war.
Yeah, how was it during the war?
During the war, now we had to move, because that's why I call it a journey, because it was a journey, literally.
Yes.
Because you had to leave Goma and then to walk kilometers to another city called Sake. Because in war, what happened is, especially in Congo, when guns are coming from you hear guns and explosions and everything coming from the east, you run west. And that's what happened. So it was just a nice morning. Let me just, if I may tell you exactly how it began.
Yeah.
Nice morning, we wake up, we're expecting everything to go as a routine, okay? I was at home with my mother, my little brother, and a maid, our house help, and I think an aunt, Maua, yes, she was there. So we were just 4 people at the house. They're just doing the normal things. And then around 10, we heard an explosion in the camp, because we were living not too far from military camp. There was like an explosion, and then guns started screaming, and then more explosions.
This is 10 a.m.
In the morning, yes.
So you wake up, you think it's going to be a normal day.
Absolutely. They're just rumors. They say, oh, Bukavu is taken, but you don't know when. You're not sure they're going to reach Goma. So, because the war started with Uvira. There's a city called Uvira in the in South Kivu. And then you had Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu. And then now it's reached Goma. And that morning, it had reached Goma in the morning, as I'm insisting. We're just chatting, you just know that there could be something, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And you don't even care if it will happen, because something like that has never happened before. So you don't expect it to happen. And then boom, the city is attacked by rebels. And we start running. The camp started evacuating military personnel and their families and all that. So we just followed them. And then at the same time, there's the place called Mugunga, where you had these refugee camps. People who ran away from Rwanda, that's where they were installed. And it was under the protection of the United Nations. So people expected to be safe in those camps. So we followed that direction. That's how people went. And the military families were also taking the west direction. And we couldn't stay in the house, so we left. And then in the middle of the chaos of, you have a bunch of people leaving the city, going in the same direction, and traffic and all that, I lost sight of my mother. And
what do you mean?
I couldn't see my mother. I was separated from my family. And then I remember the house help.
Was it like a stampede or what happened?
No,
were you all running?
We were all just walking. It wasn't even running, because people just were walking, dragging, and just being scared. And at that moment, personally, I was just observing. I wasn't thinking, making much of it. And then they reached a moment where, because I know my mother was in front, carrying my little brother on her back and holding the hand of my stepsister. And I was behind with our house help, Cecile, she was holding my hand. And Cecile and I were behind, and because of the traffic, the people and all that, at some point we couldn't see my mother and the rest of the family. So I remained with Cecile. And Cecile was like, okay, cool. We can't look for her, because we tried to scream her name, couldn't see her. So I was like, what do? Let's go to my family, and then we'll find a way out of the city, because the mission was to get out of Goma. I was like, we're still going to do that, but we did it without my family. I went with her. How's that?
All right. Now, let me take you a few steps back. So you're playing. It's in the morning.
Yes.
And you hear this explosion. What happens at this particular
Curiosity.
time?
For me, it was curiosity. Because I went outside, people were trying to get into the house, but I went to stand outside to actually see what's going on. Yeah, and where it's coming from. Because the ground was shaking, things were just, I was like, okay, what's this?
The ground was shaking?
Yes, there were heavy explosions. Heavy explosions, and it was the beginning of a serious conflict, a serious war. Serious armies fighting serious armies. That's how it was. So
how did you end up at home now with the family? Because now here, this is Antonio, young Antonio.
Yes, a little
curious.
A little kid, so curious and sometimes stupid and stubborn. And when I heard explosions, instead of running in a different direction, I went outside to check what was going on. And then I saw military camp being evacuated, and my mother came outside and pulled me back inside the house. So we locked the house, and then we just started monitoring the situation from the openings. You see these wooden walls, wooden walls, just monitoring the situation through the windows and the openings inside the walls.
Wow.
And that actually was the beginning of it all, and we knew we had to leave. And we knew we had to leave, and that's what we did. We took the road, like follow everybody with mattresses on their head and anything you can carry, and that will guarantee warmth where you're going.
Wow. I want us to take a short break.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Awesome.
And once you're back, you'll tell me now this Antonio and the family, you've lost track of your mother.
Yes.
You don't know where she is. And at this point, I'm wondering where your dad is. Or had they separated?
No, we're still together.
You're still together?
The guy went to work. Yeah. He went to work that morning. Yeah, he went to work that morning.
He went to work.
Yes.
Now you've lost your mom. There's a lot of confusion. Everyone is afraid.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know the path you're even taking.
No. Have no idea. It's just the maid calling the shot, the house help telling us exactly what to do. Cecile. Our mission was to get out of the city, but she needed a family first. So we had to go to her family. And we went to her family.
Let's take a short break. We'll be back with more. This is Antonio's story. How he survived the first Congo War, right here on Power Talk. Welcome back. This is still Power Talk right here on Y254 TV. And of course, if you're just joining us, you're just in time for this particular, the next part of this discussion that we are having on this fine Thursday evening right here. I'm with Antonio Longangi. It is his story, how he survived the first Congo War. And remember, as I mentioned earlier on, he has written a book, Amandla, born of the first Congo War. Amandla is his name, right? And of course, even as you talk about about his story, tell us what you think about it. Put yourself in his shoes. Well, if it were you, what would you have done? How would you have reacted? I do not know. But Antonio, thanks so much. Now, here, before we went on that break, we were talking about the war has now gotten to your home. There's this naive kid, has no idea what's going on. Instead of running the opposite direction from the explosion, he runs
toward where the sound is coming from.
the explosion, like many Kenyans, I believe. now, let's pick it up from where we left. So you're moving to the refugee camp.
Yes, to other refugee camps here.
You have lost your mom. You're with your
house help.
Cecile.
Yes.
What happens then?
Briefly, we reached Cecile's family, and they decided to go to their village.
Cecile took you to her family?
To our house, yes, because they had her family migrated from the village. They came to the city to trying to find a better life, basically. So they used to live in this neighborhood called Nyabushongo. So in the neighborhood, we went to that neighborhood instead of going to find my mother. So we got there. Cecile had, I think, the mother, the father, and other uncles and all that, because they lived in these close communities. They migrated, so they help each other. So they stay in proximity and support each other somehow socially. So we got there, and they wanted to go back to their village, because in Congo, I don't know if it's backed by any studies. Every time there is conflict, the first reflex you have is to go to where people are more like you. And that's where your tribe come from. So if you're Muhunde, you have to go where Bahunde, the Bahunde are. If you are Nande, you will choose to go in a territory where you find Nande people. So many people tend to gravitate toward their tribal, whatever. So
maybe something might have happened that led to
Probably. Like, I didn't actually research. I didn't look into that precisely because it's a fact that's there. Because even for us, when we were leaving Goma, we are Rega from South Kivu. It's like, okay, we're in foreign territory. Anything can happen to us. And also the ethnic dimension that was imported from Rwanda, Tutsi against Hutu, so it was also brought into the whole mix in Congo as well. Also made certain people be unsafe in certain areas.
And so you needed to be close to your own kinsmen.
Absolutely. Okay. And that
Okay.
I already lost that, but it's coming back because after we reached Cecile's house, they wanted to go back to their village. It's called Masisi. It's called in Masisi region. It's called Minova. That's where they wanted to go. So what we did is we took the road, started walking. Instead of staying at the refugee camp, we actually kept walking. And then the sun was setting. We slept somewhere just along the road, and then we kept going until the city of Sake.
You're not. What about your mom?
She
weren't
was tired.
asking where is mom?
No, I was curious. I had never been to those places before, so it was an opportunity for me to explore. So it was just that curiosity driving my naive mind, and I was just keep going. I didn't care.
Antonio.
While my mother in the back, she was actually losing her mind. I knew the story. When I came back, actually, that's when I knew the story. She was losing her mind. She wasn't eating. She wasn't drinking. And at that moment, the story was not even worse because it was just the beginning of the war.
How did you get back and find your way?
Now, what happened is, before we get there, there's actually a breaking point, a moment. Cecile, actually, let me just run through the story quickly. Okay. So Cecile, what Cecile did, she took me with her family, and then her family needed to push to the other side, but they didn't want to go with me. They didn't want to go with me. So they left me with some lost kid with UNHCR. So volunteers of UNHCR were in Sake, they left me there. And then as I'm standing there, I see a familiar face, who's my aunt. And that's where just luck. We didn't plan, expect to see her there. That was actually, I think, the third time I had seen her. And the first time I met her, she told me, call me Shanghai Elysee. I was like, okay. And at that moment, it made sense. I was like, oh, she was actually speaking about the future. And I called her Shanghai Elysee. She looked at me and she was like, what are you doing here? Why are your parents? Where's everyone? I didn't know where they were. So she took me with her to a place. And she had met one of my aunts, like the little sister to my mother, who's right now in South Africa. She had met my aunt, and my aunt was alone. So it's like, you don't have responsibilities. You take this kid, is your kid. Just take the kid, because she also had a kid. So she was taking care of her kid, and she handed me to my aunt. And then my aunt was living with her boyfriend at the time, the family compound. So we had the boyfriend's mother, father, and the siblings all there. So they welcomed me. And it was the first time I actually felt this family type of thing, and the war, everything that was happening was forgotten because it was more quiet within the family setting. Until one day, it was lunchtime, we are sitting having lunch, probably potatoes and beans fried together because that was actually the staple food of the time. So we're having lunch, and then we hear behind the house people screaming, Olema, a few meters. Olema means put your hands up, put your hands up. And then we run, screaming, put your hands up. Okay. Put your hands up, Olema, Olema. And that they say Olema when you are how to call it? When a person has a gun.
At gunpoint.
Absolutely. So it was like there were 3 characters kneeling down at gunpoint, their hands up. And then 3 also guys, 2 soldiers, well equipped and all that, pointing on them.
So here you're with your aunt?
Yes, I'm in my aunt, and we are with a boyfriend's family in Sake, in a city, in a village called Sake. It's a town.
Are you able to remember how long it had been since the explosion on
the explosion started in October. I don't really remember like the days, the chronological memory.
The period,
has been, The chronological memory has been, yes. Okay. So according to the readings and literature on the war, it started in October. Goma was taken in October, and then the war ended in March. But I was home by Christmas. So by December, I was home. I probably on the 20th, a couple of days before Christmas, I was home.
So here, someone saying,
Olema. Gun pointing some people they had captured, they call them infiltrate, people who infiltrated themselves. That are taking intelligence and all that about Sake before they attack. So they are being arrested. And all of a sudden there was something that flew from a mountain and landed where they were. It was, I don't know if it was an RPG or it's just something just exploded, came down, embraced everything that was right where they were standing, where the arrest was happening. And what you had after that was pieces of meat and dust, everything just flying all over the place, and blood. That was the first time I started paying attention. The curiosity kind of like, took a few steps back. It's like, wait a minute. There were people there a couple of minutes ago, and now they are all in pieces. Like,
even those who were shouting,
all of them obliterated, literally gone.
And you saw that with your eyes.
We are peeping through the openings of the walls again. You see the wooden holes
and
then those opening. Yes, and that was the moment where I just like, okay, cool, stop. It's not an exploration trip. This is actually serious, and that's actually how we also began in Sake. That was actually the second time the war has reached me. So we left the house. People packed stuff. We left the house, and we couldn't use the main road because it wasn't safe at that time. And guns and explosions were also just,
so now you have to shift again.
We have to shift again. We have to run away. We have to run we have to actually go deeper into the west again. So it was the western direction again. So we leave the houses, and instead of using the main road, we use these valleys. And we're walking in the valley. In the middle of the valley, a person, one of the men in the crowd we were with, like 30, 40 people, said, have you seen the military on the mountains? It's like, yes. The hills that were like, they were above the valley, there were military, like the adversary putting themselves into position before they started fighting and all that. So I was like, we need to leave this place before we die. I was like, okay, we have to rush to the other side of the valley. So we kept running. And at that moment, the image I had just seen was still playing
in your head.
I was trying to making sense of it. Like, what was it? What could that be?
What have I just seen?
Yes, it was interesting. So, I went. We left the valley, and then we decided to not use the shortcuts again and just go straight to the main road. And whatever will happen, will happen. Like, dying was the default situation. You just know you may not make it. That was it.
So you were telling yourself, whatever happens,
I could see it on people's faces. I could see some people's faces, and people were just like, it's done. Let's just do the best we can. Because in the beginning, we're playing safe. Let's take the shortcut, so we'll now have to meet the military. And then you realize the shortcut were not even reliable. They were actually the problem. So at some point, we're just like, not taking the shortcut anymore. Let's keep going. Let's just, take the main road and see what will happen. Hopefully, we will not be killed. So we took the main road and met other people, and the guns started screaming. They were screaming right behind us. Now remember, the pressure of the moment had me feel something in my stomach. I thought I needed to make a long call. So I told my aunt, Zena, I told her I need to stop and make a long call. And she told me, if we stop, we are dead. And at that moment, I don't remember anything. Everything is blank until I don't know how many hours I was out. Then I woke up under a tent. It was raining. They were putting hammers on top of a tent, just creating a tent, a shelter so we can sleep on. And they were boiling beans. You see githeri? Yeah, githeri. For us, that was a wartime food.
So wait, hold on, Antonio. Something happened here. Is there a picture that I'm missing? You're telling your mom you needed to go.
My aunt.
Your aunt.
Yes.
You're telling your aunt you need to go. She says, if we stop, we die.
Yes.
And then blackout.
Yes.
Was it like there was some explosion that knocked you out?
No.
What happened here?
Explosions were already happening behind us.
Behind you?
Yes.
Okay.
Guns were singing. It was intense. Like the combat had already started, probably in the valley. After we left the valley, they already started shooting.
Okay.
So myself, beginning from seeing the people being blown away, being blown up, and to that time, there was just this mental battle. Now, there's a part of me that understands, another one doesn't understand. It was like a conflict, and reality of life wasn't making sense at all. So, and once we are going, it's like, I think actually, because I remember writing, and I said that moment was kind of Adam and Eve biting on the apple, or on the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. I did it. but it wasn't the right time to do it. I was still young to actually do that. So whatever that happens after seeing that kind of just put me in this limbo where reality doesn't mean anything. It's just, everything is just weird. Everything is just dangerous. Everything is chaotic. There is no God. Everybody's desperate. Everybody's scared. Everybody is going to die. It's like hell has been transported on earth. And I'm sure people who have been into a situation of conflict where guns are talking and all that will probably understand. It's a feeling that I don't think I can explain. But for a child, it can get overwhelming. And then having a person who's protecting you, telling you that whatever you're feeling, it's real. If we stop, we die.
You die.
That was just like, okay, it's real. We're going to die. Let me die now before I die. So I just went out. I don't remember anything that happens on that road. I don't know if I fell, and nobody really remember per se, because everyone was just in panic mode, alert mode, and you're just autopiloting things.
All right.
Reality.
So we fast forward to this place,
We are waking up in the middle of the forest. Yeah. After that, we woke up in the middle of the forest. It was raining. People were cooking, and people are fixing things and all that. And the kid who left Goma was not a kid who woke up that evening. It was just a different person.
Because now this war had broken you.
Yes. The world stopped being a place to explore. It became this deserted place where we're all just suffering for no reason. And that's what my existential crisis started. And I do have episode. Even today, I do have episodes sometimes. There's just days where it's just like that. It's like there's no point to anything. There's just no point to being. There's no point to living. There's no point to anything. It's meaningless. And we're fighting so hard to put meaning to things. Well, there's no meaning to all of this.
Today, till date, you still have
I'm still struggling with that.
staying.
Yes, I'm still struggling with that. There are days where I feel that way. Days where I feel just there's no meaning to anything. And that day, I just isolate myself. And recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, there are so many friends I would like to apologize to if they are watching. I was a little bit rude, and most of the time it happens when I'm in that space where there's no meaning to anything. We're just trying so hard to give meaning to these things.
Is it like an image that comes into your head?
It's more.
What is it like?
It's more of a sensation. That's why I call it existential, because it's like it's just everything's like a state of being where everything is just picture a desert far away from everything, and there's no hope, a hopeless desert. There's no oasis, there's nothing.
So you're here and you are rude to people.
Yes.
The first thing that comes that's hitting my head, my mind is I'm putting myself in the shoes of the recipients.
Yes. And it's not being rude. It's not. Okay. Actually, I think using the word rude was misguiding. Let's say insensitive, basically. Insensitive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're insensitive.
Insensitive.
And I'm putting myself in the shoes of the recipients, where they feel as if Antonio is insensitive, but they do not know what you've been through.
Yes.
So they're there judging,
yet
they do not know that there is something else. There's another story behind this guy.
And there is something else, because I was in a relationship last year, and then I broke up and all that. And then I realized when I was writing the book, when I was polishing the book, I tried to see how even that experience affect my relationships as well. Like, people are threats. You get too close, you're a problem. So most of the time, I will start a relationship and then get to a place where the person is getting closer. I just pull up the walls. And because I've been informed that people are dangerous, that's what the experience taught me that people are dangerous.
Taught you people are dangerous. So if someone gets closer to you,
they might hurt you. So what do? You love them from a safe distance. Love people, but from a safe distance. And sometimes I used to have this twisted metaphor, telling girls, literally, I'm like the sun. You can only enjoy me from a distance. You get close, you get burned.
You get burned.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is actually interesting, and it's terrible, it's bad. And then I tried to now let people get closer, but in the end, it was a beautiful exercise.
Wow. Well, Cheryl, I don't know if you have comments I'm being told people are watching from different parts of the country. Let's just take a look at them. Do you have them? Where are you people watching us from? Remember, this is the best place to be. This is Gikonyo Mushiri. He's watching from Kamasharia Kamune, listening. Thank you so much, Gikonyo. We have Peter Ke. Power Talk pamoja sana. Thank you so much. This is Simon Gadogo Maina. He's saying Udhiru Massive, Mkabala na Kabete, watching. Thank you so much. Salimia wakazi wote Sakaiti wazidi kutegea show babu. Asante sana. Thank you so much, Simon. Today, more comments. Where are people watching us from? This is Dwayne Bet Collins is saying tuned in from Eldoret. Thank you so much. And here we are seeing Gikonyo again, somebody representing Outer Kamasharia. Thank you so much. He's saying tuned in. Thank you so much, Bushiri. This is Dan and was it Dan and who? Dan and Sururu. He's saying he's watching, tuned in, watching live from Liza Kibema, Manu Kibeba. Thank you so much. He's saying this is Wakara Wakigumo. Saying following up. Thank you so much, Wakara. Buju Kim Serem is saying Outer Nice Gilgil, tuned in from all the way from Gilgil. Thank you so much. And let's head over to Twitter. Let's take a look at what people, those who are tuned in from Twitter. All right. So a big thanks to those who are tuning in. I'm seeing Timothy. Thank you so much, Timo. Frederick Ukongo saying mediation is an option. Talk to Kekobo. Mediation is an option. Thanks so much, Frederick. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. All right, now so this is remember, these are just some of the tweets that are comments that are on our social media platforms. I want us to just move forward, Antonio.
All right.
Now, you have a very strong story there. I am shocked. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Let's move quickly, fast forward. Antonio is now broken.
Yes.
And it has this long-term effect on you as a person. Yeah. Till today.
Yes.
Just asking, at some point, have you thought of maybe talking to someone to help you through this whole journey of recovery and healing?
I've been a regular to the counseling center at our university at USAU, because it's just sometimes it's just to pick exactly just where I'm at, how am I feeling. I need to keep my feelings in check, like what my state of mind is right now. So I didn't even do it. I don't do it anymore when I have a breakdown or anything. I do it just to a regular checkup, just to check on myself, to check in with myself, and to know exactly what I'm doing. But then again, I've had many ways to compensate for all that, and that's even why the creative side of it, creating music, writing, and doing this, doing that.
Yeah. By the way, Antonio is a musician. For those who do not know.
Who doesn't release his music, because the music is therapy. It's therapy for me.
It is.
As soon as I make it, it's good for me. The purpose is served. But there's an album coming soon, so
there's an album coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
For those who do not know, Antonio and I were in a choir.
And then when I became director, you left.
I graduated.
Nah, you left before graduation. You're just like, he can't be my director. I'm out.
Oh man. Now, so Antonio, now you've managed to come out strong, and I love how you're using this to build others.
Yes, absolutely.
Many have this sense of belief that if someone is insensitive to them, they judge them.
Yes.
I want you to talk to Kenyans watching you, and not just Kenyans, people watching you today. Address this issue of this judging mind, this judging mentality, where you don't know someone's story, yet you judge them. You don't know where they've come from. You don't know why they're loud or why they're silent. You don't know why they are insensitive. You don't know what has molded their character. Yet you judge them based on your own standards.
On your own understanding, on your own, because you have an image of them, you project. In fact, most of the time, it's just projecting. Like a person would say, "Who do you think you are?"
Who do you, who do you think you are?
I was like, okay, I think I am who I am. But it's something that I learned about managing this judgment thing. Of course, it's not easy to not have a judgment or an opinion over a person. But then again, when you get to, if you're really, really interested in that person, in sense like you even take time to form a judgment or to tell them anything, just get closer to them. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
Just get close to them, get their story.
Be friends.
Absolutely. Because most of the people actually who became my closest friend, when I met them for the first time, I didn't like them. And then we get to know each other. And I was like, oh, you're actually a cool guy. Yeah, you're a cool dude too. Like, yeah, cool, let's be friends. And boom, we become friends.
Now, I'm told time is not on our side, but I want us to move to the last parts of this story. Maybe something we've not covered, because now this Antonio, who is in the forest, I know a lot must have happened. We may not be able to get to the nitty-gritties, but now tell me about these last parts, of your journey.
So the last part of the journey in the book or right now? Which one are you interested in? Okay, for the book, first of all, just closing with the book, of course, I returned home. I returned home after everything was stable. And the person I became after returning wasn't the same. And I would like to give a special shout out to my mother, because her prayer kind of kept me alive.
Wow.
Because once she lost me, she forgot about the war. It was just me and me and me. She prayed,
for you.
Fasted. Yes, she prayed, fasted. Sent even my grandma and other uncles to go find me. They couldn't find me. In fact, when they were going to look for me, they found my father instead. And then they brought my father back. He was stuck somewhere in some village. So now, she even promised to get baptized, because she was baptized Catholic as a child. And now she became Protestant. They wanted her to get baptized again. And she was like, no, I'm not doing it. I've done it already. But now she promised that if my son comes back, I'm going to get baptized. And then the worst part is, every place where we found ourselves, like the refugee camps, many people disappeared, not even died. Some people died, but the majority disappeared. The people stayed at the refugee camp. The kids, when I was lost, where Cecile dropped me with, some of them were killed, some of them recruited in the army. So every place I was living, people were falling behind. That's what was happening. So just staying there for a little bit longer, and those news were reaching actually my mother, and made her pain even worse. And then she promised to get baptized if I return. And when I returned, she did that on Christmas. That's even what I remember exactly when I returned home, and I can actually establish the interval between leaving and coming back.
Just to recap, there's something you mentioned earlier. You said people thought you were dead.
Yes. Yeah, they knew we were dead, because all the places that we were seen, where we were seen, people actually were killed after we leave. So I'll be in one place, and then once we leave, after some times, those people who stay there, they're killed. And some just disappear. People just vanishing. And now they are finding mass graves and all that, so probably part of the whole story.
And then the war ended. Now Antonio moves into Kenya to 2012?
Yes, 2012. Yes, 2012. I came here looking for education. World standard education. I heard about beautiful education in Kenya, like the education system in Kenya and all that, in an American university. So I was like, yeah, let's go. So I came here, did international relations, and I finished last year, my undergrad. And I couldn't speak English when I came here. I learned English at Afia Center, and it was really, really interesting. When I came here, I learned English, and sometimes it actually hits me. It's like, my first book is in English, a language that I couldn't speak in 2010. This is interesting. And my first TV interview
Is in
is in
English?
English, a language I couldn't speak
Wow.
in 2010. So it has been a beautiful.
It's been a long journey.
Absolutely.
Long journey.
And I think being in Kenya has been a blessing as well. You know, Kenya is a beautiful place. It just pulls this side of you this side of you that want to make things happen.
Now, I want you to talk to about this book. Talk to us about this book. As we conclude, how has this journey been so far?
The journey with the book has been actually interesting because the book has been catalogued in different places. The British Institute in Eastern Africa, USAU Africa as well, the library, and there's another, how to call it, the US Library of Congress has a couple of copies. And it has been in various book clubs. The Amnesty International Kenya Book Club had this as the book of the month. The refugee-led research hub at the, it's an Oxford program at the British Institute in Eastern Africa. So it has been really, really, people embrace it and I'm loving it. I know you want to go, but I'm loving the book, actually looking at it from people's perspective. So we had discussions and I'm loving the book more.
Thank you so much. Antonio, I want to give you time, just 20 seconds.
Okay.
Have a final word. I don't know what would be your parting shot today, this evening. I want you to talk to that person watching you today. A message, parting shot as you conclude. Look at them, that is your camera.
As my parting shot,
yeah.
Something that's noble and most important in life is self-empowerment. And that's exactly why I do what I do personally. And I would like people to take that thing seriously. And self-empowerment comes from owning your own experiences. It comes from accepting what has happened to you, what is happening to you, and then finding your own agency, your own power within all that. That's exactly how, what are you here on the planet? Because someday we're all going to die. But the most important part is how we experience this life. And without self-empowerment, it's a waste. So.
Right. Thank you so much, Antonio. If someone wants to get a hold of you, how can they, reach you?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram at Longangi, Longangi, and I, double I's at the end. Just at Longangi on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I think. Should be, right? Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. That is the story of Antonio Longangi. He is an author and a storyteller. He wrote the book, ladies and gentlemen, Amandla. This is the book, Amandla, born of the first Congo War. There is a lot that we've not heard from him. But so far, I know that you've been touched by the things that we have just said today. But that brings us to the end of this evening discussion right here on Power Talk. A big thanks to Antonio, my brother. I wish you the best. Keep doing what you're doing.
Me. Yeah.
All right, and I wish you the best with this book. All right, get a hold of him and get in touch with him to get to know more about this. But that brings us to the end of this evening discussion right here. My name is Aguko. This is Power Talk.